Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies.
I'm down 3 coaches, but I do think I have a solution for cross country.
No, I don't even like running. Cross country's not even a real sport.
Why would anyone want to do this?
Hey, are you here for cross country?
Yes, sir.
I had one girl show up and she's got asthma. Why have a season with one runner?
One runner matters.
For someone who knows the Lord, you act like somebody who doesn't.
Starring, directing, and co-writing is Alex Kendrick, who has previously done War Room. I actually have not seen the movie, but I have seen reviews done on them, so I say that's close enough. Alongside Kendrick, the film stars Erin Wright-Thompson, making her feature film debut. Congrats, miss. Cameron Arnett and Shari Rigby, both of whose work I am not familiar with. And Priscilla C. Shirer, who has previously done I Can Only Imagine. That one I have seen. Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I was going to see a Christian film, and I wasn't going to like it. So, let's spark some controversy for the future. Maybe further down the line than sooner, but let's say some things that I might regret later. Before anyone starts freaking out, I'm going to say this really quick. This is not supposed to be a hit piece on religion or anyone's faith. I will try not to make this a hit piece on religion or anyone's faith. But before we get into the actual review itself, I'm going to tackle one of my biggest pet peeves in Hollywood. And that is the portrayal of asthma. Yep, I'm going to take a minute here and educate you guys on what they get wrong. At least in this movie. And will probably extend to pretty much any other time that asthma has been portrayed.
Oh, back to school. Back to school.
The first thing that has always bothered me is the use of the inhaler itself. Now, I am going to take a wild guess here and say there are actually multiple techniques on how to use the inhaler. But when I was a kid growing up, I was told by my doctor, never put your mouth on the mouthpiece itself. My other least favorite thing about asthma that's portrayed in movies is the breathing itself. You'll always see asthmatics in movies going like no, that's not how an asthma attack works. It's not the throat that clenches down and is hard to breathe. It's the bronchial tubes that get inflamed and constrict. From my experiences, an asthma attack is more like very fast, very deep inhales of breath. Holy. What you see on screen is more like what happens when you survive a drowning and your lungs are free of, say, water. Because I've done that too, not drowned, but I have accidentally inhaled water. And when I coughed that out, yeah, that's exactly how my breathing was. I was like just gasping for breath. And that lasted for a good long while. But after a while, you're fine. And yeah, there's kind of a cool down moment for your lungs to kind of get back into normal shape. But when it comes to asthma, that's not how it should be depicted. At least not for me. Another thing that I really hate seeing portrayed in asthmatics, the inhaler itself does not just instantaneously cure an asthma attack. Yes, it is a little faster acting. It is intended to be faster acting. But it's not like you take one puff and then you're just fine. I see that way too often. No. There is a cool down process. One of the things they do get right is that, and this is actually more about running than actual asthma, but it still applies. If you've gone through a rigorous run, the last thing you want to do is to just immediately sit down and stop and rest. No, you got to kind of pace around. You gotta slowly walk around and pace a bit. There's a cool down process. But it still applies to asthmatics as well. You don't want to just sit down and stop moving. Your lungs need to cool down. But in any case, the inhaler does not just make it go away. Also, the use of the thing itself. Now, never mind whether or not it goes in your mouth at all, but the actual use of it is as follows. You have to exhale all of your breath and then slowly start inhaling, and that is when you take a puff of the inhaler. Now, granted, there are other factors into asthma and the techniques in using the inhaler properly, but for a generalization, movies depict this absolutely incorrectly. From my experiences, let me know if you guys share this and also dislike the use of asthma in movies, because Lord knows I do.
What did you learn?
One of the first red flags that you get, but you don't realize is a red flag until later on, is one of the main characters, Hannah Scott, having this knack for stealing things. Like, the first time we're introduced to her, she just takes some guy's headphones. That's it. She just steals random things. Full disclaimer, we don't know why. There's no reason why she does this. She just kind of hoards things. And it feels really out of character, too, because she's this really quiet, really reserved, shy, and by all accounts, nice young girl. Why are you stealing things, then? And this is never even addressed. Like, just at some point, she decided that she's going to throw herself into Christianity, and she returns everything that she's stolen, but we don't know why she did it in the first place. At first, I thought, she lives with her grandmother, they live just by themselves in their small house, so maybe there's money issues, because she works long hours as a waitress. I would just assume that there was a money issue, so maybe she steals these expensive things so she can pawn them off later on and bring in some extra money for her grandmother. But no, that's not the reason why. She just steals because we gotta make our protagonist flawed, I guess.
I don't get it.
Also, the movie is just not that well written. A lot of the writing is actually really contrived. One of the main plot lines is how Thomas Hill reconnects with his daughter, but it's just like, man, this guy just wanted to talk to anybody. Just some random dude comes into his room, and he's just like, well, let's strike up a conversation, friend. You're my friend now. It's like, wow. You're that lonely, dude. Okay. You don't have nurses to hit on. You don't have doctors to talk to. There has to be people around here while you're bedridden who take care of you. It's just like, there's a lot in this movie that's kind of like that. And trust me, it gets far worse. That just feels like, wow, stars were friggin' aligned. We are really hammering in, divine intervention.
What is significant is I felt the touch of God. God got involved.
Give this movie some credit, though. Thomas Hill, for the most part, is actually the best character of the entire movie. He's probably got the best chemistry, the best personality, and probably has even the best lines. Like, he got some legit laughs out of me with how funny he was. So I give this movie some credit that we got a good performance out of this guy. He's a sick dude, he's blind, but he's not afraid to make fun of himself. He's not afraid to poke fun. So I really appreciate that about his character. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the best that this movie offers is in the first quarter, maybe third of the flick. And I say this because it's within that time that we actually get the best character and where the story is at its most engaging. Because you have John and Thomas, who are both really fun characters and actually do have know how to work a camera. Like, they're not the most experienced actors, but they have personality, and it is actually kind of interesting to watch them for a while. just to kind of see their dynamic, especially John with his family and how he's just constantly losing teammates and how the parents of his students are taking them to other schools for better opportunities. It is actually a little heartbreaking to watch that. And it's also around this time where it's not preachy about its religion, about being religious or anything. But at some point, and I really don't know where it actually starts, but the movie's agenda eventually takes form. Eventually interrupts the movie, and that's when it completely derails. Actually, I think I know exactly when it is now. It just kind of hit me. It's one of the conversations that Thomas and John are having, where Thomas is like, who are you? Well, I'm a football coach. Well, take that away. What else are you? I'm a father. I'm a husband. Well, God forbid that ever changes, but take those away. What are you? Well, I don't know. I'm a Christian, I guess. Well, that's what you are then. It's like, hold on a second. Hold on. You're meaning to tell me that in the history of humanity, no one has ever turned away from religion? Okay, first of all, that is horrendously untrue. People have turned away from faith for various reasons. Going into those reasons is not the focus here, but it has absolutely happened. Second, I feel like this particular statement, this conversation, is trying to say that once you become a Christian, that's your identity. You can't be anything else, and anything that you can possibly list off is it's second place. It's not as important as being a child of God. But let's pretend for 5 seconds that I'm not taking the statement as it's supposed to be intended, which is that it's supposed to be made to comfort people. That even if you lose everything, you can still find comfort in God. I feel like this statement could be articulated a lot better, but fine, moving on. It goes off the rails in such a spectacular way. Like, now is around the time when John figures out, oh, Thomas is actually the long-lost father to Hannah. Except here's the thing. Now he's going behind the grandma's back. Because, like, Hannah's being raised by her grandmother. And she told Hannah a long time ago that her parents were dead. Her mom's dead, but her dad just kind of disappeared. So she just told Hannah that that her parents are dead. And you can kind of understand why, considering Thomas's background. He was into drugs. He was into a very, very self-destructive lifestyle. Jeez, this movie got uncharacteristically dark. But okay. The point is that this is still her parent, essentially. And yet, these white people are taking it upon themselves to reunite this child with her long-lost father. And instead of going to the grandmother, letting her know, hey, we found Hannah's father that we thought was dead. I'm sitting on this information. What do you want me to do about it? They don't go to the grandma, though. Ever. They go to the principal of the school, which, fine. The principal, played by Shire, it was once the best friend to Hannah Scott's mom. But it's like she has no voice in this conversation. She shouldn't, anyway. And yet, they go to her for guidance. And it's like, no, as parents, you go to the other parent. This is, oh. God, I want to curse so bad. But they go completely behind her back and just reunite the two. You have no idea what's going to happen. You don't know how Hannah's going to react. You don't know how any of that is going to go down, and you cannot take it upon yourself to insert yourself in a situation that you have nothing to do with. Yes, you're sitting on information, and you should probably do something about that, but you have to go through the legal guardian. And whatever they decide to do with that information, you have to respect that. But man, this movie is going out of its way to say, you know what, we are good Christian white folk. And therefore what we do, we can just pray for forgiveness and we'll be forgiven. No consequences whatsoever, except for a stern, hard talking to. Wow, this movie has some gumption.
How dare you!
And I wasn't even kidding about the lack of consequences when, you know, the parents go behind the grandma's back in order to reunite the Thomas and Hannah. Like, it's basically one stern talking to later, one prayer for forgiveness later, and she just forgets all about it. And for a while, I was on the grandma's side. It's like, no, you have absolutely every reason to be upset. This is a huge violation of privacy. But even in that very conversation with John and his wife, she threatens to sue the school. Why didn't she? Any other parent would have gone straight to the principal and just said, you know what, I'm suing you because you allowed this. And she would have all the reason in the world to do it. But she didn't do it because we need the good white Christian family to be the heroes of the story, even though they have done absolutely nothing heroic. Where's the white savior outrage on this one, huh? Moral of the story, I guess, is if you're a Christian, you can get away with being disrespectful. Because all you gotta do is pray for forgiveness, and you will be forgiven because you deserve it. Go yourself. This isn't even the last time they go behind the grandma's back. Like, toward the end of the story where it's like that big cross-country event, the final one that's supposed to put, you know, the Christian school back on the map or whatever the case was, there's a whole subplot that's supposed to be like all the school districts are voting on whether or not they want to allow runners to listen to music while they run. So long as what they're listening to is not like a radio with their coaches, you know, giving them feedback or anything. It has to be pre-recorded. So what happens, do you think? John takes his kids and they drive a golf cart through the course, recording it, and then they go and visit Thomas again. Basically, they're cheating.
Cheat, 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 cheat.
We know what it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be giving her inspiration, coaching her on how to breathe and when to slow down, when to pick up the pace, pick them off one at a time. But the truth of the matter is, he is still feeding her information about the terrain. Like, you're coming up to the first hill. Be sure to charge it. So, because all the other girls are going to be going a little bit slower, you are going to attack it. This would not fly. I imagine that if this was a rule that they were implementing, first of all, it wouldn't be so close to the final race. They would go through that MP3 player or whatever music playing device it is and would go through every single track to make sure that there is no runner feedback on the terrain in case someone wanted to essentially cheat like this. And lo and behold, Hannah Scott wins. Man, and I feel like in any other movie, her victory would have been really, really powerful because it is done pretty well. She crosses the line and collapses on the ground. And it's kind of built up that she actually didn't win the race, but then at the last second, the referee or whoever the hell that was basically says, nope, you won by an inch. In another movie where it wasn't as preachy, where it wasn't as almost scummy, I would actually believe that ending, that victory would have been pretty awesome. Because it's not every day that asthmatics are portrayed as strong people. But the underdog story is barely played with. It barely factors in. It's just sort of there to let you know this is kind of an underdog story. At the end of the day, I have seen far worse Christian films. I will take mindless propaganda over hate mongering any day. Because I don't even think those are Christian films. This at least is a Christian film. It tries to mean well, but it tries to say its message in a very flawed, very misguided way. And if that's the worst thing that this movie is, yeah, I'll still take it over something that's hateful. Needless to say, I don't like the film. I don't recommend it. The religious community is obviously not going to listen to me or care about what I have to say. For casual moviegoers, you probably wouldn't care to see it anyway. So I'm just talking. But I saw a movie. I'm gonna critique it. I'm gonna give my honest opinion about it. Speaking of which, my honest rating for Overcomer is a weak 3 out of 5. And the only reason I'm not giving it a lower score is because, yeah, that first quarter and first third actually had some charm and personality to it. So, far and away, not a good film, but not the worst I've seen. Thanks so much for watching it, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Hope to see you soon.